So anytime we begin writing, it's always important for us to follow the writing process. And a common error that beginning writers make is that they'll sit down at the computer and just try to hammer out a paper, an essay, the finished product in one sitting. And I always tell people that that is a cookbook for disaster. You should never, ever just sit down and just try to barrel through any type of writing project. You have to think about it like a process. And with that in mind, there's lots of different steps to any type of process, and it's an investment of time. So I always encourage everyone to think about writing as a process and realize that you're going to have to sink some serious time into it in order to be a successful writer. Now, one thing that people recognize is that the first time that they begin writing, it's really pretty clunky, but then after a while, the pace will start to pick up. So one thing that you'll notice as you progress through the course is that the amount of time you spend writing will decrease. And an interesting thing that you'll find is that your grade will increase. Because if you remember anything such as learning to ride a bicycle, right? The first few times you did that, you fell and then you got up and started pedaling again, and then you would fall again. But then, right, you started to become proficient at it and you were able to pedal faster and have fewer falls. That's a good way to think about writing as well as anything that you sit down to do. So, writing begins with an idea, a prompt. So, for this example, working with our first 300-word essay, which is an essay of examples, an exemplification essay, right? Take this idea of your worst job. Now, in pre-writing, which is the beginning, the first part of the writing process, one thing that I like to do is create a web, an idea web, or a bubble map. There's lots of different terms for this. So what I'm going to do is just fill in, right, the different jobs that I've had throughout my time. Right, so when you're pre-writing, there's really no such thing as an error. Reason being, if I have a contraction in here, if I make a spelling mistake, that's okay, because this is not a paper. This is the very beginning. We're going to take this and work with it and polish it up as we go along. So now, I'm just kind of thinking as I'm going along, and then bang. So this is clearly my worst job is when I worked at the red apple plant. So now, working with examples, where do examples live? Examples are the answers to questions that the writer asks him or herself. So I need to ask myself the question, why was the red apple plant my worst job, right? So then that's going to give me some other bubbles. Right? It was really, really hard work. The pay was really, really terrible. The working conditions were really, really bad. I didn't have any friends at that job. So that meant that, I didn't have any companionship. And of course, with every job, your boss is terrible, right? So these are all of the different reasons. I'm just bubbling out ideas, right? Just popping them off. what made the red apple plant my worst job. Now, with the 300-word essay, it's impossible to talk about everything. It's what? Impossible to talk about everything. So what we're going to work with is a rule in writing that becomes the Holy Trinity in writing, which is the rule of 3. So what you need to do is you need to think about what are the 3 top reasons, right? The 3 best reasons out of all of these bubbles that you come out with. So now for me personally, right? So thinking about the best reasons, those would be the topics that I could write the most about. Right? So this one about hard work, that would be it. That'd be a good one. About the pay, right? There's always lots of good details lying in those, in that idea. And then the conditions. Now, here's what's good about coming up with lots of different topics. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save these, and these will be my backup, right? So if when I'm writing the paper, as I'm continuing to work through the writing process, if I find that one of these ideas doesn't flesh out, I'm not going to panic and go all the way back to start. I'm just going to pull one of my backup ideas and pull that into the paper. So this is something important when you're writing, is that you want to find a space within your home, right? And you want to be able to spread out and make a mess, and then not have somebody come in behind you when you step away from, your work area, and then clean up. So I always tell people, working at the kitchen table is not going to be good. Why? People say, well, I love the kitchen. Everybody loves the kitchen. It's a high traffic zone, right? And chances are that if you're going to create a mess and then you're going to have a work area going and you're going to step away, chances are good that somebody's going to come behind you and clean up and stack up your papers and make them neat and tidy, and you don't want that to happen. You want to, creation is a messy process. So keep that in mind. So now what I want to do is I want to continue pre-writing, and I want to take my ideas and organize them using an outline. And then we'll really start to see the rule of 3, the Holy Trinity in writing, take shape.